Hey,
Hey, how you doing, friend?
doing good, Jacob. How are you?
Doing well, enjoying the day. It's a beautiful day down here in Florida. How about yourself?
Yeah, doing great, man. Can you hear me all right?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm Micah. This is my little brother Chris, who's
Hey,
helping me out.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Um, so there's like a million things to talk about. Um, we been following a bit of your work the last little bit with Laura Loomer and Alex Jones and Roger Stone in Broward County, and you're investigating the Proud Boys. I mean, there's so much, but uh, just to start off, for people who aren't familiar with your work, if you want to kind of break down a bit of,
Sorry, let me put Do Not Disturb on. Sorry.
no worries, man.
Um, yeah, you want me to give just a little rundown about me and what I'm doing and where I started?
Yeah, just for the people that aren't familiar with you, yeah, your name's Jacob Engels. I know you contribute for Infowars, and yeah, if you just want to run down, yeah, sort of how you got started with all that.
Absolutely. Yep, my name's Jacob, and I run the Central Florida Post. Before I ran my own publication, I worked in politics, raising money for candidates, building websites, doing PR. When I saw an opportunity to buy a local failing publication, I jumped on it. I initially thought it'd be great ad money, a little extra cash in the bank each month, and then I found out I didn't want to have to pay people to write, didn't want to have to pay people to graphic design, websites, so I ended up doing it all. So I didn't choose to be a journalist, but I found it to be very fulfilling. Fake news was around back then as well, so it was good to have my own outlet where I could communicate the truth as I saw it, and that's what I've been doing for the past 6 years. I do contribute to Infowars, to Gateway Pundit, and I love what I do. And right now we are in the most exciting time. I think people think it's kind of doomy and gloomy, but I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, there's endless possibilities right now. It. Hey, can you put my sound in here? Sorry.
Do you not have sound?
Yeah, in my ears. Just my sound. Sorry, we're gonna fix something real quick.
No worries.
There's always, yeah. We're looking to upgrade our setup here, but trying to figure it out.
Hear anything?
I don't hear me.
Oh,
There's just a little rough. All right, sorry about that.
no worries.
All right, we're good. Yeah. So getting started in independent journalism, you said that wasn't something you planned on. But there are so many possibilities. I've seen people like Owen Benjamin or different people streaming that didn't plan on seeking the truth, but they see all this propaganda and fake news out there, and they feel almost like a duty. It's like I have to, let my voice be heard and try to find the truth.
Yeah, we all are frustrated, and we've all been at that point where we're sitting on the couch or we're watching on our phone, and we're like, "Good God, that is just not the truth." And you complain about it, you bitch about it, you moan about it, and then eventually you figure out, well, I can do something. I can tweet, I can Facebook, I can get on YouTube, I can pull up live video, and that's really the most important thing. James O'Keefe, Andrew Breitbart, Alex Jones, these are some of the forerunners, people who came before us, who showed us how to do this and why it's important. And what we saw with most recently with the Covington teams, that's the biggest example of why it's so needed to have independent media, independent journalists. And guess what? Anybody can be a journalist. And they hate that. The CNN people, the protected class, the fourth estate, whatever you want to call them, they think, ooh, I went to Harvard, I went to Yale, I did all of this, I have a fancy journalism degree. And they get outworked and they get outsmarted. And you can say whatever you want. They're reading off a script from the deep state,
Yeah.
from their corporate controllers, and that's really, I think, what frustrates them most. They see us having fun, and they're like, "Crap, I wish I could do that."
Yeah. Anywhere from late night political shows to late night comedy shows, you see the same jokes, the same talking points. That lack of freedom, I know, has to just be stifling and devastating. And I do see with this independent side of journalism, yeah, people having a good time. I was just watching the Netflix documentary on Roger Stone, and regardless of what people think of that guy, I know Netflix probably isn't trying to push the best image for him, but he's having fun. Like seeing him at the Trump rally with the peace signs, and like I don't know. There's something contagious about that type of energy. The outsiders, the non-political people, whether it's Trump or Roger Stone or now yourself coming in. You know, people like Owen Benjamin, Steven Crowder. I mean, there's so many different people, but yeah, there's a different kind of energy.
Yeah, and it's freedom, and that's ultimately what it's about. It's about freedom and about having fun and about self-deprecating humor. Okay, there are tons of times on live feeds and interviews and scenarios where I'm out and about doing what I do, where I crack jokes on myself. We have fun. We rag on one another. And these mainstream media people, they can't take a joke. I mean, Roger Stone got banned permanently from Twitter for making a mean joke about Jake Tapper. Come
Mm.
on. I mean, goodness gracious. We should be able to have fun, have freedom. And that's one of the reasons why I really like Alex Jones. People sometimes misunderstand when he gets a little wild. They misunderstand. They say, oh, that dude's crazy. Oh, that dude's lost his mind. But what happens when Alex Jones goes on a wild rant? Oh, I'm igniting the flames of human liberty all over the place. When he does that stuff, you watch it, and then it leads into talking about important things: corporate control of the media, the deep state, what you're putting in your body, important issues of the day. And this is something that I think late night talk shows are a little better about in the mainstream, where they allow people to be a little wild and use comedy and skits and sketches to communicate basic ideas and news. But that's, I think, a common misconception about Alex Jones. He gets wild to get your attention. And when we have been conditioned for decades to getting our news, and today's news, it's boring. I could turn on the TV and watch that on 15 different channels. So what's different in the marketplace about Alex Jones is it's entertaining, and the whole host of people he has over there, from David Knight to Owen Schroyer to Roger Stone, to Millie Weaver, they're all entertaining, and they have their own shtick, and they have their own personality, and they're allowed to be free.
Yeah, that was the thing I saw in an interview with Owen Schroyer, who, for people who haven't seen his videos addressing protesters and debating, they're hilarious. They're actually the first thing I saw from Infowars. But he was saying that the best thing about working there is he's got freedom. He can investigate what he wants to investigate, talk about what he wants to talk about. There's no script. It's like, let's try to find the truth. Let's find what's interesting. Let's do our job and do it the way we're supposed to do as independent thinkers.
Yeah, and you really have to wonder, when Twitter is censoring, when Facebook is censoring, when YouTube is censoring, when platforms like Patreon and PayPal are censoring people over having a differing political viewpoint and being free and being allowed to crack a joke. And sometimes it may be off color, but could you imagine? George Carlin wouldn't survive in today's landscape. Dave Chappelle, when he came back and he dared to make a transgender joke, the social justice warriors ate him alive. Eddie Murphy Raw. I mean, these are things that, if conceived right now and were late night specials, these people would be picketed and protested, because you can't be mean. Now it's all about, realize they've moved away from, they've beaten the drum of racism and homophobia, sexism, toxic masculinity. They've kind of run that out, and so now it's, oh, how dare that Covington teen sit there with that smug look on his face to that Native American elder veteran? How the hell is he supposed to know who that guy is, and if he's a veteran, and if he's an elder, or if he's just some weird dude banging a drum in his face? And a smirk. So what is that? A tactical assault smirk? Is that an attachment to the AR-15? I mean, what's wrong with these people? People can have interactions without it having to be completely overanalyzed.
Yeah, that's tough. I never saw the original reports. The first thing I actually saw was Cernovich debunking it, and even the worst reports of what had happened and what they're saying didn't. I mean, it's not that bad. It's a protest, and like you're saying with the guy, it actually did turn out that yeah, many of the statements he had made were false, and apparently was not in the Vietnam War and all that. And it's like,
Yeah. It's a
They didn't.
refrigerator mechanic who went AWOL 3 times, according to his DD 214 that the guy who runs the Stolen Valor organization found. So all of this feigned outrage and oh, woe is the world and pity me bullcrap surrounding this guy. First of all, he's an adult approaching teenagers.
Yeah.
I don't care if those teens said something rude to him. I don't care if they said build the wall. I don't care if they said something that could be considered rude, or even if they said something racist. People are allowed to be assholes. They're allowed to be racist. And I don't want to live in a society where people don't say those things because I want to know where the idiots are. And when you take away people's comfortability and right to be whoever they want to be, whether that's a good person, bad person, or indifferent, when it comes to what they're speaking, as long as they're not actively promoting a threat of harm onto someone, when you take away their right to communicate, even the most fringe, kind of cringy ideals, that only internalizes it more, radicalizes an individual, and makes them go to deeper, darker places that really end in bad situations. So one of the other things I'm curious, what were those teenagers supposed to do? Were they supposed to just walk away? Then the guy would have followed them with the drum. Were they supposed to get down on their hands and knees and apologize for taking the land 200 years ago that they have no relation to? What were they supposed to do? What was the answer in that scenario? I still haven't seen anybody say that. I mean, what were they supposed to do?
It would appear, yeah, from what I saw, they probably handled it about as well as you could expect kids to handle it. I mean, if you're those kids' parents, like, what do you have to be upset about? Your kids some of them might have gotten a little goofy, dancing around, chanting, having a good time, but they're kids. That's, that's just how they are. And this is, an exciting event. And, yeah, it's a strange thing. I think the whole propaganda against kids, this is interesting. We were actually talking with Mason Musso, who you know, he was speaking highly of you, but we were talking about sort of the two sides. The split in our society seems to have a lot to do with people that are concerned with sort of traditional values and upbringing, and taking care of their kids, keeping them away from abusive people, and brainwashing, and then there's this other side that's like there's overpopulation, and kids, gender fluidity, we can give them chemicals, and this, and all these white kids smirking, this is the worst thing ever, and abortion. We got New York with, you know yeah, it's crazy. It really does seem to be that there is a side that is nihilistic and does not care about kids.
No, and again, people joke when Alex Jones says something like, "We're defeating the satanic pedophile army," but really, how else would you describe the behavior from some of these people? It is satanic, and when I say satanic, I really mean evil. Good over evil, and somehow a Catholic student smirking is more offensive to these people than an 11-year-old who's been radicalized and watching drag since he's 2, dancing in a strip club in front of dozens of gay men who are throwing dollar bills at him. Did anybody realize we never saw the other side of the camera, what those men were doing while the kid was up on the stage? It looked like a seedy nightclub to begin with, and they had a no cameras policy. So these people want to argue that that type of behavior is okay. Yet some kid just standing their ground while this guy's banging a drum in their face is the biggest race crime of the decade. It it shows the depths of insanity and the utter mindless drone mentality. You realize that, how once one person started with that narrative against those teens, it just swept like wildfire, that hive mind, and there was no
Yeah.
question, there was no freedom, there was no evaluation. It was just, oh my God, racism, comparing them to school shooters, and it's really disappointing. These are our kids. These are children. What was I thinking about in high school? What were you thinking about in high school? I'm thinking about the next football game. I'm thinking about tests that I have due, maybe a field trip, maybe going to a party on the weekend. And in this day and age, for wearing a hat. We've seen people in high school spit on, attacked, um, harassed, death threats, their families getting death threats, and comparing a red hat to a white hood. It it's bizarre.
Yeah, that's the new thing that seems I'm seeing a few like left-leaning people that call themselves centrists. Like what's her name, Bari Weiss or whoever, the lady who wrote the IDW article, which I don't know. I'm not a fan. From what I've seen, I feel like just research-wise it was inadequate, but that's just my opinion. I may be wrong, but I saw her talking to Rogan. I had to turn it off because I don't know, it was just annoying. But she was basically like almost not justifying, but saying, well, you have to understand people on the left, they view the MAGA hat as the hood, almost as if this like this half justification is like, yeah, I get that people are saying it's bad and they want to attack these kids, but it doesn't matter what they think it is. What matters is there's no justification. What matters is their behavior. If you're a CNN contributor, and multiple CNN contributors called for direct acts of violence against the children, the school, their friends, their family, and like directly, like I want to punch this kid in the face, or someone should slap this kid. It's like, or the school needs to burn down. I don't. Yeah, it's baffling.
That and that should be the biggest indicator of when those individuals behave like that. You have no right to lecture me about news, about my life, about politics, about anything. You don't even have the self control as a adult to realize that you shouldn't be targeting teens. And where's our comparison? Let's compare and contrast for a minute, because when the whole Parkland tragedy happened and these students began their activism and choosing to become involved in politics and becoming involved in very adult things and becoming involved in pieces of legislation that affect everyone's lives, not just students. And adults on the right, adults in the conservative cause started criticizing them and poking a little fun and having some humor. What were we told? Oh, the children! You can't criticize them. They're teens. Oh. And so why do Parkland teens get to be protected when these Covington teens don't get to be protected? Why do some teens' speech matter more than others? And it always comes down to, if it fits the narrative and fits the ideological preferences of the mainstream media, anything goes. There really are no rules. As soon as you are on the opposite side of them, they can dox you, they can ruin your business, they can break up a marriage, they can harass you, they can call for acts of violence against you, and it's all justified because Orange Man bad, Donald Hitler Trump, and we're living in the Fourth Reich, literally right now. And I was told as a gay man, by the way, that if Donald Trump was elected, that one of the first things was I was going to be rounded up, put in a train car, sent to a death camp, and that Mike Pence personally would be electroshock therapy. I'm waiting. I
Yeah.
haven't a train ticket. They haven't knocked on the door. I haven't seen, acts of violence against gay people for simply existing in this world as a direct result of Donald Trump. And so I feel for these people because they're our fellow Americans, right? They're our brothers and sisters. We're all in this together. The government, the media, the deep state all view us as cattle and commodities in the grand scheme of their nefarious behavior. But we have to find a way to break the spell. And we closed asylums about a half century, or about 50, 60 years ago. We closed asylums. And so now we have all these people that are exhibiting symptoms of individuals that used to be in the nut house, used to be in the rubber padded room. And we need more attention to mental health. And that doesn't mean pumping people full of psychotropic drugs and chemicals, because we look at all these school shooters, all these mass shootings, and what's one of the common denominators? They're on some type of antidepressant, psychotropic, some type of high-grade pharmaceutical chemical that is known to drive people insane. and to radically alter the balance of your body. So people who are behaving like some of the people I encountered at the Women's March, calling for mass shootings, having complete meltdowns, assaulting people at the very sight of a Trump hat or at the very um, instance of hearing a differing viewpoint. These people need to be, taken to the nut house and given a 72-hour hold and a little evaluation and spend a little time away from the phone and talking about what's really going on up here to make them feel that way and to get some therapy. And then when they're ready to come back out into society and not trigger themselves every time they see something or hear something they don't like, then we can all be nice. Because right now, the way that the mainstream media and the political establishment has ginned up these people, it's going to lead to more violence. And as soon as they realize that they're not going to be able to impeach Donald Trump or remove him immediately and install Mother Hillary as president, how do you think they're going to behave? Do you think they're going to be peaceful? No, they're not going to be peaceful. So we need to save America from itself in a lot of ways, and these people need mental health, big time.
Yeah, the whole mental health issues thing. It's so tough because I feel personally that there a lot of it. I've worked in the field a bit as well as have my own issues and treatments, and as everybody does. This is our society, but I think so much has been misconstrued about how we're supposed to deal with our mental health issues and the way we medicate. It's like you get people that are, call it Trump derangement syndrome or, whatever you want to call it, or whatever thing is wrong with someone internally, we put it out at people. Like if someone's, the whole idea of conservatives being homophobic, it's like not very many are. There's some closeted people or people that, are very hateful that might feel that way, but it's not, yeah, that's not the
And screw
norm.
and screw them. And you're right.
Yeah.
And this gets back to thinking about what you are putting in your body, the types of food that you are eating. Are you taking vitamins? Are you taking supplements? Are you making conscious decisions to exercise, to do things that really cost not a lot of money, that you can work into your basic budget, that are readily available, that don't require doctor's visits, that don't require an immense cost to you in time or finance. And that's what we should be doing. When you pump yourself full of high fructose corn syrup, all of these genetically modified foods, all of these things that really haven't properly been studied, the side effects to even know the long-term effects of what's going on. I mean, I don't even like using the microwave, but that's just me. Um,
Yeah, we got rid of the microwave here.
yeah, you think about it and you're like, ugh. But that's the thing, and they demonize someone like Alex Jones, who pushes that, and they say, oh, it's snake oil salesman, oh, it's this, oh, it's that. Quite frankly, no. I've looked at all the products, and they're no different than what's being hawked at Whole Foods. It's no different and oftentimes cheaper and better sourced ingredients. And these are basic natural remedies that have been used for thousands of years.
Yeah,
This
I
is
saw in the.
pretty.
Oh, sorry to cut you off. Sorry, what was the last thing?
No, I was saying it's pretty ancient. You know what I mean? Don't reinvent the wheel. The
Yeah.
things good for our bodies were good for our bodies thousands of years ago.
Yeah, I saw a video that was trying to basically discredit all the supplements, and their conclusion at the end was these are the same as the other supplements like this. So, if you want to discredit the entire supplement industry, go ahead. But he's selling, yeah, it's the same, yeah, the same stuff people get in, other high quality products. At least that's what they concluded.
Yeah, and look, um, I can't overstress the importance of taking care of your body, because you take care of your body, it directly impacts your mind, your emotional state, and I feel almost like people get into this spell when they're eating a lot of this processed food and a lot of these things that are highly addictive. And it just worries me. It worries me because there is a reason. You know, you look at big pharma, you look at these states that have legalized marijuana, and we see Philip Morris trying to get involved. We see these big tobacco companies and pharmaceutical companies now trying to put out their own lines of medical marijuana.
Monsanto, that scares me.
Or Monsanto, and yes, with the chemicals they're putting in food. And could you imagine the makers of Marlboro if they're able to develop a strain of marijuana? Do you think that's really going to be all natural? No, they're going to sneak tar and nicotine in there to addict you, just like they do with everything else. Um, you know, free your mind, take care of your body, love each other as humans, but don't put up with crap from people. And we should just go back to being able to handle the good, bad, and the ugly of a human. If you love someone as a human, and I'm just talking to normal, your fellow Americans, I might not agree with them, their lifestyle, their line of work, their political beliefs, their place of worship, but as long as they're leaving me alone and not affecting my life, do whatever you want to do. We need to get back to that. And I really am disappointed in the Libertarian Party never being able to reach, they're not able to get out of their own way. You know, it's really sad because the Libertarian Party is where most Americans are anyways. And Trump's brand of populism is the closest thing we've seen to a libertarian president. And I appreciate it. And there's still things I disagree with Donald Trump on, but large in part, I think he's doing a good job. And I just wish that we could have a libertarian president in our lifetime, and hopefully we can get there. Wouldn't that be awesome? Not Gary Johnson, though. Please, not Gary Johnson. Now, John McAfee, who is running for the Libertarian nomination, man, he's a wild man, and he's fun. And the core ideas of libertarianism are Americanism. They are Americana, and I think that would be phenomenal if we could have a libertarian president.
Yeah, we definitely need that injection of, yeah, like the freedom-minded, yeah, get out of the, yeah, the people that want to get away from this party system, because the libertarians have a lot of great ideas, but like you said, always getting in their way. The dude who shows up naked, to their conferences, and Gary Johnson, not doing any research, and he's doing interviews. It's like,
I
yeah,
think he was toking a little too much before the interview, but we're not going to begrudge him for that.
I think you might be right. Yeah.
There was a classic moment where it was like, "What is the Aleppo?" And you just see it, and it just reminded me of, of course, I've never imbibed, but I've heard, the effects of marijuana, and it reminded me of some things that I've heard from friends of situations and scenarios, but. That's the other thing. You see the Republican and Democrat establishment in a lot of ways stands against the legalization of marijuana. They stand against veterans being able to have access to marijuana. They stand against people with mental illness being able to have access to marijuana. And yet they are for alcohol. They're for harmful pharmaceutical chemicals and drugs. What's the worst thing that's ever happened from somebody smoking way too much marijuana? A bag of Doritos dies, and they maybe go on a marathon of Call of Duty, Netflix, or pass out. I mean, what are people so afraid of? And there's still this reefer madness in both the Republican and Democratic Party that just boggles the mind. And I'm so glad Jeff Sessions is gone. I don't know what our new Attorney General will be doing, but Jeff Sessions' reefer madness era stance against marijuana was so backwards. Donald Trump, thankfully, has legalized industrial hemp and moved towards more sensible drug and marijuana policy. He's dealing with the crack cocaine and powdered cocaine distinction through that legislation that passed, that he signed. And if you want to know how Donald Trump cruises in to 2020, crushing whatever Democrat they throw at us, let the Democrats nominate their person. Let them have their convention. Donald Trump has his convention speech and announces, as president, when I'm reelected, I will legalize marijuana. Adults can use marijuana, completely legal. Legalize it. Done. Huge moneymaker. Legalize it to build the wall. Legalize it to help homeless people. Legalize it to take care of our veterans. Legalize it to build our roads. Legalize it to improve our schools, our infrastructure. What would the Democrats have? What would they do? You know, there's so many centrists. There's so many conservative Democrats. There are so many Democrats that are on the far, like, you know how, like, you have those far, far left Democrats that are against government, against establishment, against New World Order, against Trans-Pacific Partnership, against NAFTA, against mainstream media, against just about every single thing. And then you go on the far right, and it's like all these same ideas. And eventually, the far left and the far right are kind of sitting right here, and there are one or two issues that keep them apart. And right now, it's this hatred over Trump. On the left, they have this idea of Donald Hitler Trump, but they also realize Bernie would have ended TPP. Bernie would have ended NAFTA. Bernie would have wanted better trade policy. Bernie would have wanted better trade deals. And this thing I talked to with a lot of my friends who are Bernie supporters is they just couldn't get over the boorish, kind of in-your-face, New York style, I'm here, and, attitude of Donald Trump. But, privately they'd say, oh, Jacob, crap, if he ends TPP, if he gets us out of NAFTA, if we get better trade deals, if we do this, if we do that. And I'm like, yeah. Like, can you still live with Trump? I'm like, oh, no, I can't live with that. I'll never be able to publicly support him. But silently, they're sitting there just kind of, slow clap. And they realize what Hillary did to Bernie.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched Fahrenheit 11/9, the Michael Moore movie about the 2016 election, and it was fascinating to see, and the way that he framed it was so kind of sobering. And when it gets to the convention, and you just see, and these are things that I didn't know. I knew that the DNC conspired to rig rules and to kind of take away resources from Bernie and not allow him access to fundraising lists and all the things that normally Democrat candidates would be able to have access to because they were rigging it for Hillary Clinton. What I didn't know is on the floor of the convention, they overruled results from states. For example, West Virginia. Every single county in West Virginia went for Bernie in the Democratic primary.
And they overruled it?
It's the floor of the convention. West Virginia is called West Virginia, 19 of 19 delegates, Hillary, Rodham, Clinton. And so what the Democrats did is they took the results and they invalidated the results by placing superdelegates to outweigh and overturn Bernie's wins. And this happened in dozens of states. So he didn't really have any chance. And then it cut to Bernie on the convention floor, and it just like, Madam Chairwoman, and he's like, I move to suspend the convention and nominate Hillary Rodham Clinton, and then he just kind of like walks off. And you could see the defeat on his face. You could see the frustration. You could see that he was backed into a corner and just utterly aghast at what had happened to him and the secretive nature of it. But what do you do? What do you do when you're going up against the Clinton crime syndicate? What do you... And they let it happen. The Democrats let it happen. Republicans sat on our side, and we fought the Bushes. We fought the Kasich. We fought the McCain, the Romney wing. And we propelled Donald Trump to victory. While the Democrats were kind of one hand tied behind their back, not wanting to get down and dirty, not wanting to get too aggressive. And that's another thing that Michael Moore did in this film that I actually think was pretty brilliant, is he talked about how the Democrats have lost their way by becoming the party of compromise. and talked about how, starting with Bill Clinton, you saw the Democrats shift to a party that opposed gay rights, a party that did horrific trade deals that favored corporations and corporatists, a party that put black men in prison and broke up the black families with Bill Clinton's crime bill, a party that did all of these things that left little distinction between the Republican and Democrat parties, um, and they did it because they needed the money, because then they could. You see the donations usually in these presidential elections, and it's like Republican, Democrat, and you go and break it down. They each got $50,000 from CBS. They each got $50,000 from Lockheed Martin. They each got $50,000 from Disney. They each got, and so these corporations, until Donald Trump, were able to hedge their bets. So whoever won, they won, and the American people lost. Trump comes in there like a wrecking ball, like F this, and that's why they hate him so much, because they can't control the guy, and they try, and President Trump really needs to act on internet censorship, though, because he thinks that he won't be censored and can't be censored. They will try. That his single biggest tool is Twitter and Facebook and the use of new media to get his message out. What if Jack? What would Donald Trump do if Jack at Twitter just cut the cord, deleted his account? Because then Trump's in the position of, I'm the president of the United States. I can't bully and force a private company into what some people would say would be to show favoritism, to reinstate his account or to relieve a ban. So what would the president do in that situation? It would be between a rock and a hard place. So then he would have to travel more public appearances, and that's rough. That's rough, and there are only so many hours in the day, and there's only so much you can do, because if he were to be censored, Jack would have no qualm censoring everyone else. And that's the old Niemenohr quote from World War II. First they came for the trade unionists. I was not a trade unionist, so I didn't stand up. Then they came for the communists. I was not a communist, and I didn't stand up. And then they came for the Jews, and no one was left to stand up for me. So that's the important thing. I don't care if Richard Spencer has a Twitter account. I don't care if David Duke has a Twitter account. I don't care if black separatists have Twitter accounts or Facebook accounts. I don't care if ISIS has accounts. Now, I will say that if you're going to censor a journalist like Laura Loomer or Alex Jones on the basis of hate speech and causing people harm and all of these trumped up reasons that they use, and you still allow a terrorist organization, or you still allow a black hate group, or you still allow other verified hate groups on Twitter that have a leaning to the left, then that's hypocrisy.
Yeah.
I'm very much of the idea that I want people to be able to say what they're going to say, no matter who they are, so that I know where the idiots are, know where the racists are, know where terrorist sympathizers are. And to me, again, with even groups like ISIS, what do you do when you shut off access? You radicalize people further. You force them to go underground. I would much rather have these people be out in the open. We can see who's interacting with these Facebook, Twitter, YouTube channels. We can see what's going on. But if you're going to ban Roger Stone, if you're going to ban Laura Loomer, if you're going to ban Alex Jones, then at least be consistent. Because there is no reason in this world where Alex Jones should not have a Twitter account and ISIS gets to have Twitter.
Yeah, that's the craziest thing is, yeah, the obvious bias, and you can tell what the mission of the tech sites is. I mean, they're taking out people that stand against them, people that aren't in somebody's pocket. But anyways, if you have sorry, go ahead.
The technocracy, yeah.
I was gonna say, I know we've run over 40 minutes. I don't know if you have any more time, or if you have to get going. Cool. I was wondering, you brought up Laura Loomer. Yeah, it's fascinating seeing everything she's been up to, and after her Twitter ban, just all the protests and demonstrations. How did you start? I guess you worked with her in Broward County
Yep.
some. How did you kind of like link up and get working together?
Yeah, I actually met Laura when I was doing my truth tour around the state during our gubernatorial elections, where Ron DeSantis was running against Andrew Gillum, who was a socialist running for governor of Florida under the Democratic Party line, who was billed as the next Obama. And I met Laura Loomer confronting Andrew Gillum at these events over the hypocrisy in his stances. Oh, I want big money out of politics. Evil rich people this, higher taxes. Well, what about your donor and your political financier, George Soros? Oh, well, that's different. So we were displaying the hypocrisy on so many levels. That's where I linked up with Laura, and we were kind of able to double team in a lot of ways and feed off of one another's energy. And she's such a courageous individual. And it really is disgusting what they did to her. But when you have that fire inside of you, they can take away Twitter, they can take away Facebook, they can take away your means to raise money online, and yeah, it hurts and it sucks and it makes life miserable. But as you've seen, she's not let that slow her down. She's handcuffing herself to Twitter headquarters. She's hopping over Nancy Pelosi's wall. I mean, she has something planned almost every week, and she's still out there fighting for freedom and liberty. And that's what we all can do. If you have a camera phone, which everyone does now, you see something weird that's happening, you see something that's worthwhile, everyone should be getting their phone out and documenting it. Why not? Why not? The power of what we can do is the ability of all of us to be able to do it individually and to reach that critical mass. And Laura Loomer was a lot of fun to have during the Broward recount. And that was probably one of the most interesting days I've had as a journalist, was when I decided to dress up as Brenda Snipes, the Broward County Supervisor of Elections. I was in a romper, and I put on the silver wig I got at the wig store, and I was impersonating her. We were doing a mock recount out there, and we were having a blast. And then I got a call from Laura, and she's like, I heard that Andrew Gillum and Brenda Snipes are going to whatever church in Fort Lauderdale. We should go there and protest and see if we can smoke them out. And so that was probably one of the most bizarre experiences. I'm dressed in a romper as a woman with a megaphone, with Laura Loomer, confronting these people, and they wouldn't let us in. So the progressive candidate for governor was banning a gay man and a Jewish journalist from his press scrum, from being involved in his event. And we had some of those supporters that said, see what happens if you stick around past dark. Crackhead's going to rape your ass and kill you.
Mm.
And I'm like, this is your neighborhood. These are your neighbors, and you're talking about your own neighbors like this. That's like something I would expect to hear from a racist like Richard Spencer talking about black people, not fellow African Americans talking about their brothers and sisters. And one of the most bizarre moments of that night, we saw Andrew Gillum come out, and we saw a silhouette in the car in his motorcade that looked like Brenda Snipes. And so we booked it. We're running. And there's some footage online of me running in a romper with a wig on, Laura Loomer running behind me. We're trying to catch the car and see if we can bullhorn them. And we didn't end up being able to catch them. But then we started walking back to the car, and several cars passed by that were yelling out slurs and profanities. You had people popping out from behind bushes that were acting and behaving in a very menacing way. And we felt like we were being stalked, literally like we were being stalked by creatures that wanted to do harm on us. And that's the sad part about where we are in our political discourse, is the media has whipped everyone up into hysteria, where if you oppose someone or you are to the right of Karl Marx or Vladimir Lenin, then somehow you're automatically a murderous, KKK, racist, Nazi, whatever. And so that like gives people license in their mind to think, if I were to see you out on the street with a MAGA hat, that you're a danger to me and I should beat the hell out of you.
Yeah.
And that's not going to end well. And on one note, what do these social justice warriors and these progressive people who are running around waving purple dildos in the air at the Women's March, what do they think's going to happen? They keep talking about, oh, I want to see you out in the streets. I want to, oh, I'm going to punch a Nazi. Oh, I want to, let's get this civil war going. Let's get it going. How do you think that's going to work out? Do you think you're really going to win against Bubba, who's got like 300 guns and is sitting on, 5 years of food and water, and you've got a purple dildo? What are you going to do to these people? I just, the idea in their head of, we're going to start this big revolution and take out all the Trump people and fight them in the streets. How is that going to work? And they talk like that and they behave like that because they think they have the government behind them. They think that they would have some type of military coup against the president, where they would have military forces cracking down and going through and raiding people's homes and putting them in custody for simply supporting Trump. So again, tell me really who are the real Nazis here? Because that sounds like Nazi Germany to me. And it's not Republicans talking about those ideas. It's not conservatives. It's not Trump people talking about stuff like that. It's the left. It's liberals. It's the resist, the never Trump moderate Republicans, the alt left. They want a police state. They want no free thought. They want political violence against their enemies. And it's sad.
It's such a strange thing to see people in the streets chanting, that the cops are, cops and KKK, or the cops and Klan hand in hand, something like that, some stupid chant. But you're protesting the police, but also you don't want free speech, so you believe that the police or some sort of military force should be coming in to shut people down. That's what you're protesting for. But yeah, it's just, the irony is just, I don't know. It's crazy.
Protesting. When I was at the Women's March, these people started freaking out, this woman in particular, and she's yelling everything in the book: homophobia, Hitler conspiracy theories, just everything. And then they always go off on the rant. Oh, why are the police protecting them? Why aren't you arresting those Nazis? Why aren't you taking that fascist garbage out? It's like,
Yeah.
like the police, when you can use them as jackbooted thugs to fulfill your race war fantasy and your political fantasy of jailing your political enemies, but when it comes to the police protecting themselves or stopping deadly criminals through use of force, we hate police. Police should be disbanded. We don't need police. Police don't need weapons. Again, that goes back to, when it suits their purposes, there are no rules. There are no boundaries. There are no guidelines. But as soon as you flip it back on them, which is what I like to do, I like to go out there and get in their face. I like to go out there and bullhorn. I like to go out there and mock them. And they lose their minds because nobody challenges them. When you go to these events and you go to these anti-Trump protests, you say, Donald, Hitler, Trump, KKK, no fascist USA. And they're like, you're a fascist, you're a Nazi. So how am I fascist or not? Donald, Hitler, Trump. I thought we were all supposed to be in camps by now. Can you tell me when? And they have no explanation, and you can just see them physically trembling and having these bouts of insanity. And that's what you need to do, because every time I do that, I see other people there who look around and they're like, yeah, that's crazy, and I'm never coming to one of these again. I don't like Trump, but that's freaking cuckoo. Or you have people online that are like, I'm a Democrat, I don't support Trump, but this is deranged behavior. So it has some effect, and I think as conservatives, we've spent far too long taking the moral high ground, taking the ethical high ground, and sitting there saying, oh, well, we can't go protest, we're going to take the high ground. We can't go shout someone down. We're going to take the high ground. We can't boycott something. We're going to take the high ground. But liberals and progressives do it all the time, and they're very effective at getting what they want. So why are we not fighting fire with fire?
So does that sort of play into, I see with like Roger Stone and yourself, the agent provocateur sort of tag? Because I'm interested in that. That was, I don't know, it's fascinating. Like it's a different type of strategy, and that's yeah a big reason why I wanted to talk to you in the first
Yeah,
place. Is you're using a different strategy than a typical, more conservative right leaning person might use, and it's yeah, it's interesting.
don't no need to reinvent the wheel. So it works for them. The outrage mob is in right now. This is the type of politics that we're living in. So if they want to play the game, like the funniest part, and I do it just to kid around with people. Um, anytime I challenge somebody on Twitter that's of a progressive persuasion or in person, and they are they imagine themselves to be some sort of protected class, right? So if I challenge someone on Twitter and they don't like what I say because I'm pro-Trump, they'll immediately come back with, "Oh, well, you must hate black people because I'm black." No, the tweet said, "Why do you stand against this policy? Here are 5 facts proving what you're saying is wrong." It has nothing to do with race. So one of the best things to do is figure out what type of marginalized community you're a part of. Every time they attack me at an event, every time they attack me on Twitter, first response, "This is targeted harassment. Why are you marginalizing the gay man? I feel unsafe."
Yeah,
And they come back with, "You can't do that. You can't say that. You can't use your sexuality as a shield." Well, wait, you do it all the time. So again, you got to demonstrate the hypocrisy of what they're up to, because it just makes it all a mockery, and it is all a mockery. It doesn't matter if I'm gay. It doesn't matter if you're Catholic or you're whatever. It doesn't matter. What matters is who you are as a human. Do you love freedom and liberty? Do you love America? And if you can agree to a couple things like that, I'm going to let you do what you're going to do. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And as long as you aren't affecting my life or my family or harming my business and my ability to earn a living, I really don't care.
yeah. When you don't want to control other people or control all aspects of culture, coexisting is not as difficult as you might think.
That's right. Coexist. And of
Yeah,
course, resist.
yeah.
Resist.
Um, so I was curious about the Proud Boys a bit because I know you've had some involvement in that group. That was another example of people being misconstrued, kind of the mainstream narrative. If you go back and look at where the group came from, it was a goof from Gavin McInnes, who was former, well, he founded Vice and quit there a few years ago, and then he was doing independent stuff. But yeah, he basically started as a sort of a joke with one of his interns and turned it into this men's club where they got beers and everything, and then it became an issue. I guess Gavin was getting protested, and so they would kind of get in the way and keep Antifa from attacking, and that's really sort of, at least from what I've heard, how the group is that accurate?
Well, yeah, and the video evidence is pretty clear. You're referring to the New York incident. The video evidence is pretty clear that Antifa is showing up days prior, promising violence, vandalizing the event space, having calls to violence on social media, and this is all part of their process of, if I label you as a Nazi and a fascist, then if I'm fighting Nazis and fascists, even if I'm using violence, and even if I'm violently attacking you first, it is an act of pre-self-defense, right? So these individuals show up, they, effed around, and they found out. They're throwing bottles, they're following people around, and yeah, you know what? Some people got into a scuffle, and people are fed up, and it is what it is. I don't ever want to use violence. I don't ever use violence as the first. But when it comes down to it, when I've been at these events in tough situations in progressive crowds that are using violence against me. It's the Proud Boys that have been the peaceful group that have protected me as a journalist. It's the Proud Boys who have been the cooler heads and kept everyone safe. I announced last summer that I was going to lead a group of conservative, pro-gun, pro-Trump individuals to the Pulse Memorial here in Orlando, Florida, to deliver an arrangement that I had made. I had this whole arrangement made in the shape of a kind of the heartbeat thing you see in the hospital, or the life, the pulse thing, and with like a heart behind it. So I had this whole beautiful arrangement done, and I announced that I was going to be delivering it, and the progressive alt-left community and the gay community started inbounding me with threats. If you show up, I'm going to rape you with a pipe. If you show up, I'm going to follow you back to your car and beat the fuck out of you. If you show up, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. All because I support Trump. So that's really scary, right? So I asked the Proud Boys, I said, guys, you're pro-gay, you're pro-America, you're anti-radical Islam, okay? And that's radical Islam is what did that to Pulse. And will you come with me? Will you walk me there to and fro, make sure I'm safe? We get there, we do it. It was peaceful. But the fact that I had to bring a group of people to deliver an arrangement where I'm doing something right because of threats from the tolerant, progressive, left-wing community, that shows you, again, just the ultimate hypocrisy. But Proud Boys, look, I've been investigating them as a journalist for close to 2 years, I think now, and I haven't found an instance of homophobia, of racism, or of sexism. They're a bunch of guys who like to get together, drink some beers, love America, and like to share fun memes. I mean, it's this pretty silly, pretty harmless thing, but any type of organized meetup of men and beer and bad dad jokes and a lot of cussing seems to be very frightening to the feminazis and to the progressives who don't like. They want women to be empowered. They want women to have fun and have license to do anything they want. But all of a sudden, a bunch of men getting together in a bar and getting a little tipsy and having fun. That's a hate group. Oh, those are Nazis. Oh, it's like Hitler. And it's just cuckoo. It's cuckoo.
Yeah, I would encourage people that maybe have heard stories of the Proud Boys and the incidents that have been violent to find the source material, go look at the videos. I've done that, and I know, obviously you've done that, and you might be surprised with what you find. It's a lot of them protecting people and trying to de-escalate situations much of the time, and sometimes it escalates and Antifa is attacking them and they defend themselves and it's justified. But yeah, I would encourage people to look into it yourselves.
Defending yourself is not a crime. Someone attacks your person, violently attacks your person, you have a right to self-defense. You're not somehow a horrible human being if you defend yourself or defend your friends. And when you look at Proud Boys, I just urge you to go to the Proud Boys website and to look at their core tenets. Pro-gay, anti-drug war, they're against big government, they're against censorship, they're against, endless foreign wars, spying. They're libertarians at heart, and they're socially liberal. Okay, they want a return to the strong kind of nuclear family, but they're not against the gay community. They support the gay community. There are a lot of gay Proud Boys. There are a lot of, the Proud Boys. When I first heard about it, I was, this is a horrible white supremacist group. And I go to these meetings, and I see more people of color than I do, boring milquetoast white bread people like myself. So it's one of those things where it's very easy to create this narrative in the mainstream media of this scary boogeyman that needs slaying. Do your own research, listen to your own podcasts. Get outside of the mainstream media. And look, you can listen to Alex Jones just as you would listen to CNN. You could listen to me just as you would listen to CNN. You could listen to Roger. You can go on Drudge Report, Gateway Pundit, Big League Politics. All those websites are just starting points. They're other people with opinions on topics that interest you, but ultimately it's your job to read, watch, listen, and then be your own investigator and determine if what you saw and what you read or what you heard in that article, that media appearance, that podcast, was it accurate? And make those determinations on your own. Free your mind. Do your own thing. You know, that they want you to be controlled. Even Alex Jones sits there and says, I'm just giving you, like, you know, I'm just handing you the map. And you run with it. And, you know, I'm starting you down the path where you make your own decisions. So we all should do that a lot more and free our minds.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Well, anyways, man, we just hit an hour. Thank you so much for all the time. I really appreciate it. This was great conversation. Is really really fascinating. Yeah, to learn from so many different perspectives. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on. And I look forward to being back.
Awesome, man. We'd love to have you back.